Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I invite everyone in the public to join Council, rise and sing O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. I will now give our opening prayer, and that'll be followed by our moment of silent reflection, and then we will begin the meeting proper. God grant us understanding and patience, that justice, truth, and honesty may be evident in our decisions. Make us mindful of the needs of the people throughout the town of Oakville. Help us govern with the wider community in mind, and so create in us a desire for progress and responsible action. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you, everybody. Madam Clerk, I understand we have regrets from Ward 1.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have regrets from Councillor Johnston and Robinson.
Thank you. Council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest in tonight's agenda? Thank you. How do you wish to proceed with your minutes of the previous meetings? Councillor Adams and Councillor Elgar moved the minutes, and these are the minutes of the regular session of Council on October 28th, November 4th, and November 12th. Any corrections? All in favor? Opposed, if any? The minutes are adopted. We have no public presentations, but I understand we have a registered delegation. Madam Clerk, would you announce the delegation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the delegation is Rob McKenna regarding the 2014 rates and fees, item 2 of the 2014 budget.
Mr. McKenna? Welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Mayor, councillors, town staff and public, good evening. My name is Robert McKenna. I am speaking on behalf of those seniors who, over the age of 65 years old, have recreation centre fitness memberships. I also made a presentation to the Budget Committee at the November the 4th meeting. I will open by saying we are extremely disappointed with the whole process that initially resulted in our group being singled out for elimination of its membership discount over a 5-year period. Excuse me. The elimination will hopefully be changed as a result of the recent public protest and media coverage. The compromise offered is to freeze the discount at 20%. We understand that the process started with a recommendation from staff, supported by a staff report in 2010. After further review, of that report, it isn't clear how or why staff made this recommendation. The report shows little specific cost data or reasoning to support a need for the town to claw back what appears to be a maximum of $50,000 a year from 65-year-old fitness members of the recreational centres. That same report noted that the programmes at the senior centres were highly subsidised. However, staff made no recommendation to change those. Apparently, the process adopted by Oakville does not require any attempt to notify affected parties of such changes. As a result, no member of our group was aware of this change until this year, and certainly none were at the committee meeting in June 2010, where the vote was rushed through in a beyond-the-hour session between 10 o'clock and 10:10 p.m, along with several other issues. Most towns and cities have a policy of being open and transparent. This was not the case here, since those affected received no advance notice. The fact that both Burlington and Mississauga give 20% discounts, together with the net cost of the fitness memberships, appeared to be the deciding factors in the final vote from the Budget Committee. However, our subsequent research shows that services and facilities available through memberships in each of the three communities varied widely. For example, net cost of the like services is much higher in Oakville than in Mississauga. Therefore, we believe that the discount and net cost of membership does not produce a valid comparison. As such, the decision to freeze the discount at 20% may have been premature. Council may feel that retaining the 20% discount will generate positive PR and enhance Oakville's vision of being the most livable town in Canada. We would suggest that if this discount generates positive PR, then a return to the 35% discount would produce even more PR. Of course, the reverse is that the cut from 35 to 20 will certainly generate negative PR and impede the town's ambition for the most livable title, especially when residents realise that such changes were provided without any attempt being made to notify the affected parties. We would suggest two routes forward for consideration by Council. There may, of course, be others. First would be to instruct staff to reinstate the 35% discount as soon as possible. The alternative would be for Council to accept the recommendation of the Budget Committee and instruct staff to form a review committee to examine the 2010 report with all supporting studies and require that the review committee findings be reported back to Council, with such revisions to the staff recommendation as may be necessary. The committee should consist of staff as required and those put forward from the 65+ recreation centre membership as having appropriate skills. I thank you. I'll try to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. McKenna, for your information. Are there questions, Council? Thank you, sir, for your information.
Thank you.
All right, Council, that brings us to the committee reports, the 2014 Budget Committee, the Community Services Committee, and the Administrative Services Committee meetings of November 4th and November 13th and November 13th, respectively. Councillor Adams?
I'd move the committee recommendations, and I wondered if our staff would be able to put on, there's a slide that shows the relative cost of senior fitness memberships in Burlington, Oakville, and Mississauga. That was one of the questions that was raised at the committee. Would staff be able to put that up on the overhead?
Here's staff now.
Yeah, that's maybe we can make it bigger. But
You need the control room to zoom in, and they seem to
there
be
we
zooming in.
go. Perfect. So I only asked for this to be brought forward because not everybody on the council is on the committee and may or may not have seen or heard of that discussion. And it was a point of discussion that was brought forward, and Councillor Elgar was very good at pointing out this particular set of information, and I thought it would be relevant for the council to see. The other piece of information that I think council members might want to know about is the membership numbers of seniors going back the last few years, and approximately speaking, the senior memberships have been growing at about 5% a year since 2010. So in 2010, there were 305 memberships sold, and in 2011, the number is 320. In 2012, it's 335, and this year to date, is 351. Those are the 3-month and 1-year memberships. So they've been growing at about 5% a year, despite the phase out in the last couple of years of part of the senior discount. And as was discussed at the Budget Committee, the 20% discount that the committee is recommending to Council is the same subsidy that's provided in both Burlington and Mississauga, despite their memberships being more expensive. So with that, I'd like to put forward the recommendations from the committee. The other item that was discussed at the committee was the $300 credit for those members of the public who are below the, I think it's below the low income cutoff, and that credit is something that could be applied in the future towards fitness memberships for those in need.
Councillor, thank you for your motion and your information. I need a seconder. Councillor Elgar seconds. Councillor Demov, did you want to question or speak?
Actually, I had a question, if I could, on the transit fare increase. No?
Yes, you can. That's certainly in order. Go ahead.
Thank you. We've received a number of letters about the increase, and one in particular that concerned me was the student pass, because it's gone up over the last 2 years about 17%. And I'm wondering if, I mean, I don't like to see any of the fares increase, but I understand they have to in order to maintain services, and our other option would be to reduce services. But would there be a huge impact if we kept the student monthly pass at $65? Because a lot of kids need this in order to get to school. And I know the most at need, the school board sometimes provides it to them, but you know, year over year for 2 years, that's a pretty steep increase for a student to have to pay. And I'm just wondering if there's any way that one in particular could be looked at, and if it would have much of an impact on the budget.
Mr. Cole?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The student pass in Oakville, in comparing to other transit properties, is still the second least expensive of all of the student passes at $65 at the report, the $70. I'm sorry. It wouldn't have. It would have about a $20,000 impact if we were to not increase the student fares. In arriving at the fares at the fare increases that we've proposed, we've looked at what all the other GTA properties have done, 3 of which haven't even reported their 2014 fares yet. We've looked at where we're out of alignment with those and where the opportunity is to generate the revenue that we need. So revenue from fares is going to increase by about 3.75%, where expenses have gone to 4.8%. We've been able to make up the difference through advertising contracts, but in order to achieve the revenue target that was set for us, we need each of those fare increases that we've proposed.
Okay, and the student Presto fare, was that basically arrived at as the equivalent of what the student tickets used to be? Is that how you?
Correct.
Okay.
The single ride Presto fares are all the equivalent of the ticket price.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demov. Just for the public's benefit, All three committee reports are on the floor before council, moved by Councillor Adams, seconded by Councillor Elgar. Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed if any, and the reports are adopted. Now that brings us, we have no consent items, and that will bring us to our three discussion items on tonight's agenda. And the first one is the departmental presentation from Environmental Policy. And I'm not sure which podium Director Toth is going to choose, but if we give her our attention, she will update us on environmental policy. Welcome. Council's looking forward to this.
I'll just get set here. Okay, how's this? Thank you. Mayor Burton and members of council. Council has key strategic priorities to protect and enhance Oakville's environment, continuously improve programs and services to be more environmentally sustainable, and be Canada's most livable town. Oakville's environment comprises a myriad of outstanding places, from the Lake Ontario shoreline with first-class parks and harbors, vibrant downtown, to the spectacular valleys, green spaces, and natural corridors filled with urban wildlife, to the improving air that we breathe. Our 2012 State of Oakville's Environment Report declares that our environment is a key component that goes into making our town vibrant and attractive to businesses and residents. We know how important our environment is to residents. The 2013 Citizens Survey indicated an 83% satisfaction with the town's efforts to protect the environment, and the natural environment was our citizens' second highest priority at 54%, behind controlling growth at 67%. Council's commitment and support for advancing Oakville to a leadership position in many environmental areas continues to grow, and this makes my department's work plentiful, challenging, intense, and very, very rewarding. It is my privilege to be fully engaged in this work with a small, tightly knit team of 5 full-time staff, including myself, often augmented with several co-op students and a university intern to keep us sharp, as they often bring along new ideas, and they are our future. We are all passionate about our work, relish the day-to-day challenges, are lifelong learners, and bring our personal commitment to delivering the highest quality products possible. And they're in the audience this evening over here. Just quickly. Okay, thanks. Our work delivers actions important to council: improving our air quality, managing energy and greenhouse gas emissions, reducing waste, increasing recycling, greening our buildings and our fleet, supporting diversity and wildlife, and preparing for climate change. Every day we strive to maintain the town's leadership role in delivering effective and innovative environmental sustainability for the corporation and the community. And with the support of this council, we set the bar very high for other municipalities. Actions unique to Oakville include the Health Protection Air Quality Bylaw, delivering effective work to protect against improperly located energy generation facilities, developing the Environmental Strategic Plan with its comprehensive suite of environmental programs, and preparing in-house the Oakville Wildlife Strategy, among others. Our role is to be aware of emerging issues and risks, policy gaps, and effective program delivery so that we are prepared for the future. The town's interests are protected, and council can make informed decisions that contribute to Oakville's livability. Our work begins with the progressive and responsible goals set by council's unanimously approved Environmental Strategic Plan to sustain and enhance our natural environment, to reduce our resource use and waste consumption, establish and support an environmentally friendly transportation network, create and support a healthy, resilient community. foster environmental stewardship through education and community involvement, and lead in applying best environmental management practices. We focus on maintaining and growing in-house expertise, supporting adaptation to keep pace with change, whether it's through bringing in best management practices, ensuring compliance with existing and new regulations, developing risk mitigation strategies, or dealing with emerging issues. Our goal is to help future-proof the town for current and future generations to enjoy. Bob Iger, current chairman and chief executive at the Walt Disney Company, has stated the riskiest thing that we can do is just maintain the status quo. And this is especially true when dealing with the environment. Departmental staff functions as a team of subject matter experts, providing coordinated, ongoing guidance and expertise to staff across the town. We work very positively with the majority of departments, and it is difficult to provide you with just a brief overview of these connections to other departments because the connections are plentiful. However, to keep my presentation at a reasonable length of time, I will only mention 6 examples briefly. We work with the legal department on environmental bylaws and site contamination issues. And actually, we do quite a lot of work with our friends in legal. Parks and open space on wildlife management, invasive species, and natural heritage restoration projects. Planning services on land use planning for energy generation and sustainable development. Strategy, policy, and communications for delivery of comprehensive public engagement strategies, website enhancement, and issue management. Facilities and construction management to deliver sustainable green LEED buildings. And the fire department to bring electric vehicles and a charge station to continue to green our fleet. This list just gives you an idea of the range of interdepartmental initiatives involving environmental policy staff. Council's vision implicitly requires demonstrated leadership, and with Council's support of innovative and bold environmental actions, the town has been recognized with prestigious awards for environmental excellence, urban wildlife management, working towards zero waste, for our efforts to improve our air quality and reduce greenhouse gas emissions and energy use, and for the town's commitment to green building. Opportunities to raise awareness of Oakville's leadership efforts come with invitations to participate as speakers at conferences and on panels as best-in-class case studies locally and internationally, and as board members of respected organizations such as the GTA Clean Air Partnership. To move effectively towards livability, the community needs to be an active partner. Thankfully, Oakville is a habitat for environmental activism, and this I do say with pride. Democracy facilitates and enables the views of the many to be expressed without undue constraint. To quote Louis L'Amour, to make democracy work, we must be a nation of participants. This council values and in fact requires substantive community engagement to make our town work better together. And our community participates as the town's essential and active partner, raising concerns that need to be addressed, such as with pesticides, health, air quality, and wildlife, and also carrying out work on the ground, vitally important to directly improving Oakville's environment, planting trees, restoring green spaces, reducing energy use, and supporting environmental education. And we go to the community. We do not expect the community to come to us. By making these efforts, we have gained respect from our partners. These partnerships produce impactful results. Oakville Green is delivering community tree plantings and wildlife education to our town's schools. The Oakville Horticultural Society developed the pollinator-friendly Anderson Parquet to promote awareness of biodiversity, water efficiency, and environmental stewardship. The Halton Environmental Network and Green Trans has worked on Summer Fun Bike and Bus Day, waste diversion at community events, and promoting alternative energy generation. The Oakville Community Foundation delivers the Oakville Environmental Fund, established in 2005 by the town, that has provided almost $68,000 to community groups for environmental work over its 8 years. The annual energy fair, held in conjunction with the Oakville Community Garage Sale engages around 15 community groups and businesses such as Oakville Hydro, local home improvement service providers, and green energy suppliers to bring energy conservation options and education to the usual 300-plus attendees. The local community energy sustainability, or local community sustainability plan, branded Let's Be Livable, is connecting to the community, residents, schools, and local businesses to raise awareness of sustainability, define the community's role, and identify community actions that support the 4 pillars of sustainability. The project was launched with a successful event in mid-2012, followed by the establishment of a residents panel through innovative public engagement methodology. Development of the plan is continuing into 2014 with continued community involvement of sector representatives such as the Oakville Chamber of Commerce, and continuing to engage with the residents panel, networking with community partners, as well as hosting a business forum and a sustainability summit. As an outstanding example of partnerships, our community's voice, supported through council, clearly identified the desire to have cleaner air to breathe through responsive policy development and leadership. The town continues to occupy this role as leader in environmental protection, working with our neighboring municipalities, the Ministry of the Environment, and community members on the pilot Oakville-Clarkson Air Zone Management Advisory Committee to achieve sustained efforts by all sectors to reduce air emissions and improve our local air quality. And through enactment and implementation of the Health Protection Air Quality Bylaw, work with the town's businesses and the Oakville Chamber of Commerce has been effective as a mechanism to achieve continuous improvements, again, to our local air quality. These are important efforts that collectively, as partners, move us forward towards environmental sustainability more effective than if we were working in isolation. Without engaging the many residents and community and environmental groups that are active in our town, we could not be as efficient in our work. Many of the community-partnered activities serve to plant seeds, to grow trees, or environmental awareness, or energy conservation, but what is really happening is that we are growing community to support Oakville's livability. Oakville's environment remains challenged at the local, regional, provincial, federal, and global levels. Other agencies' policies and laws for energy, sustainability, brownfields, climate change, and more create emerging issues. I have a technical difficulty, but we'll see where that goes. There we go. They create emerging issues from regulatory change, newly identified policy gaps, new technology and science, old contamination coming to light, and proposed developments, among other issues. We must be aware of and be responsive to emerging issues in order to provide council with the information needed for informed and timely decision-making. To keep council up to speed, we need to keep pace with and be ahead of these types of issues. And this requires mental agility, the ability to ramp up with scientific and technical research to develop a science-based and effective approach, and resiliency to constantly review and evaluate the often fluid scenarios. Taking on these emerging challenges is important to council. Environmental policy has relished being involved in these very important and often intense efforts to produce rationalized response to these emerging issues. Our work for you on these issues needs to be done this way to be credible and defensible. This strategic approach to environmental problem solving begins with the foundation created by Council's Environmental Strategic Plan, which is entering into its unanimously approved second successful 5-year implementation cycle, and the goals of the Environmental Strategic Plan were mentioned earlier in the presentation. Other significant efforts have occurred when the town took on the uncontrolled use of pesticides for cosmetic uses with the development of the town's pesticide bylaw in 2007, with the implementation over 2008 and 2009. This action was a tipping point, moving the provincial government to enact the Cosmetic Pesticide Act in 2009 to ensure that province-wide controls were put into effect that reduce the use of these harmful toxic substances in residential areas. And this council provided clear direction and support to staff to ensure that power generation facilities proposed for Oakville must meet stringent criteria that protects the health and safety of our residents and do no harm. Through council's direction, we will achieve local air quality improvements that enhances the health and well-being of our citizens from airborne fine particulate matter emissions through the innovative Health Protection Air Quality Bylaw, unanimously passed on February 1st, 2010. Council deserves credit for bringing forward community health and environmental concerns, acting on them, and supporting a staff response that has established the town as a leader in dealing with emerging issues head-on. I know my counterparts in other municipalities frequently contact me to find out how they can emulate actions taken in Oakville. As Michael Moore said in his work, Here Comes Trouble, I realized that this was the big secret of democracy, that change can occur by starting off with just a few people doing something. And the town, through council, while not a few people, drive and influence change when your concerns and the concerns of our community are great enough to support taking a stand. Challenges will continue to come our way. The revised Species at Risk Act will impact development in North Oakville. The Green Energy Act continues to bring in new requirements for reporting on energy management. Projects by others, such as the province's energy planning, require continued vigilance in making sure that collectively we are aware of the continued changes that may impact our town's environmental sustainability. New emerging issues such as brownfield management, the coming need to comply with PSAP 3260, liability for contaminated sites reporting requirements, and road ecology approach for better wildlife management are examples of adaptive change that bring about opportunities for continuous improvement. Our role is to be aware of emerging issues, policy gaps, opportunities, and effective program delivery so that the town's interests are protected, leadership status is maintained, and council can make informed and timely decisions that contribute to Oakville's livability. At the same time, we continue to strengthen our community's partnerships by building solid, engaging, and effective relationships. Looking to council's vision to be the most livable town in Canada, I am reminded of a saying by Gene Roddenberry, "We will head in the direction we look." Council's forward-looking direction sets expectations high to maintain the town as a leader in environmental sustainability. The Environmental Policy Department relishes the opportunity to support this position through effective and innovative actions to contribute to Oakville's livability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Toth. I wonder if you would do something for us. The region's air monitoring program, having shown that our air is getting cleaner, I think shows that we're definitely on the right track. And we on council are grateful and proud for your work. Would you please introduce your staff by name so that we can acknowledge each of them publicly and thank all of you for being on guard for our environment?
Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce them personally. If you want to stand, we have Jeffrey Lee, Research Policy Analyst, Air, and working on brownfields now. Donna Doyle, Senior Research Policy Analyst, works on the ESP and the SOER State of Environment Report, and Wildlife. Tricia Henderson, working on environmental policy and climate change, and Suzanne Matter, specializing in energy and sustainability.
Thank you very much. And in fact, isn't Ms. Matter the very first municipal sustainability officer in the province?
Municipal Energy Conservation Officer,
I'm
and
sorry.
and
I was
yes,
thinking of Peter Love and
yes,
misremembering
yes, she
his
is.
title. Congratulations, and thank you all on behalf of council for all that you've done and will do. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Toth.
Thank you.
Could I, Councillor Elgar? Thank you. Could I have a seconder? Councillor Duddick? All those in favor? And the presentation is received. Council, that brings us to item 2, the 2014 council appointments to various committees and boards. We have 2 items on this list that require some clarification. I'd like to recognize at this time Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Giddings and I have both applied for the same committee, and I was really keen on being a part of this committee, but he agreed to wash my car. So I'm not sure if I'm more appalled by his flagrant attempt to influence a councillor or my shameless acceptance of that offer, so I will withdraw.
Thank you. I hope it's understood that's all jest. We don't want.
There's my lawyer.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. The chair would like to recognize at this point Councillor Lapworth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I put my name forward for this committee based on the fact that for Council's consideration, I'm the privileged treasurer and board member of the Bronte BIA, and Bronte does need lots of help. However, I'm willing to withdraw in favour of Council's consideration for Councillor Demoff.
Thank you. That would be the tourism partnership. Now that I've taken care of that, I need a mover and seconder for the appointments. Councillor Knoll and Councillor Lapworth. Thank you. All those in favour? Opposed, if any, and those appointments are approved. That brings us to number 3, the ratification of the contract with our valued workers at QP 136. And you have the report before you. I understand that we need, there's nothing special there, is there?
No, there's confidential appendix if you wish to discuss it in camera.
Right, I understand. So, Council, is there a desire to discuss the confidential appendix? Then a mover and seconder would be in order. Councillor Knoll moves the recommendation, and Councillor Duddick seconds. All those in favour? Opposed, if any, and that is adopted. We have no confidential discussion items. We have no. Your information items have been circulated electronically. You have your status of outstanding issues. I understand there might be some new business or a request. Is there any new business? A request for report, then. I understand there's a request for report. Who has it? Councillor Adams. Councillor who? All right, Councillor Adams.
Councillor Elgar is seconding this motion, and it was originally intended to be brought forward by Councillor Johnson, and so there's many of us who feel the same on this particular issue, and that is why this is being brought forward. And it's regarding a number of provincial initiatives, and I'll read it out loud because I think it's important for the public to understand what's going on as well. Whereas the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing is consulting with the public, stakeholders, and municipalities on the province's land use planning and appeal system and development charges system, and whereas changes to these systems may significantly impact on how the town of Oakville plans for future development and recovers the costs associated with this development, and whereas the Ministry of Municipal Affairs has requested feedback by January 10th, 2014, therefore it be resolved that staff be requested to report back to Council on the significant issues for the town, and in particular provide comment on whether the review of the Ontario Municipal Board appeal process will reinforce local government authority for planning decisions, and whether the review of development charges will reinforce the principle that growth should pay for the costs associated with growth. And I think it speaks for itself. However, it has been in a matter of great interest both here as well as at the region, and that's why all of us felt that it was important for our staff to bring forward material for both our consideration and that of the public.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Elgar?
It's just it's good timing, because this morning at our Budget Committee meeting, it actually was highlighted just how much growth costs the average existing taxpayer, even though we are collecting as much as we can based on the provincial legislation. In fact, we in fact should be pushing hard on the province to allow us to recover the full cost of growth.
And that's
so this is long overdue.
And were you also going to mention that, and that's despite the fact that we have the highest growth charges in the province?
We on this council are all proud of that.
Yes, thank you. All right, the request for report requires a majority vote. Can I put the question? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? The request for report is approved. Council, we now need a mover and seconder for consideration and reading of the bylaws. Councillor Grant, thank you. Councillor Giddings, thank you. This is authority for the bylaws listed in the agenda, and I will not read them all because they're so numerous. All those in favor? Opposed, if any. The bylaws are approved, and that completes our agenda. Thank you for your time and attention. It's been great working with you, and we are adjourned.